Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. Well, we got some good news today. Firearms Policy Coalition, in a case that is, I think it's Plessy versus Ferguson or something like that. I have to double check the case name, but I know what the outcome was. Basically, the injunction has been put in place in the Fifth Circuit that has put a stay on the pistol brace ban until they fully define some things. Now, this is good news in that it moves the case forward and gets us into a space where we can actually get some headway. Again, Firearms Policy Coalition is on our side. You probably should support them. What they've done here is they've got the injunction in the Fifth Circuit. What that means is that the complaintants are now remedied for right now. That doesn't mean us yet if you own one of these devices. It does mean that there's now case precedent that sets a good place for us to begin with. Now, again, I was watching Washington Gun Law, so I think his name's Bill Kirkland or William Kirkland from Washington Gun Law. He's very good at talking about this stuff, and he was going through the numbers yesterday of how many people have complied to date. So, based on his numbers from May 5th, roughly 100,000 people have, or 115,000 people have complied with the ban. What I mean by comply is they've registered their firearm as a short-barreled rifle and have went through the process of Form 1ing it. Now, whether or not they've got their Form 1 back or not, that's another thing. If you don't know, if you ever Form 1 anything, it usually takes about 6 months to a year at the best case scenario. So it is kind of hide and wait and see. But if you think about that, fewer than, 1 million people, fewer than 250,000 people have complied. And conservatively, he used some conservative numbers. If there were 20 million people that actually purchased these items, and 15% of them were to comply, that's about what they've got. They've maybe got 15 million people still out there. If the conservative number was 20 million, that would have complied. Now, this item, the firearms pistol brace, has been out in circulation for over 10 years, so it is very likely that the number is closer to 40 million, which would mean that it's in really common use. But it also shows that there's fewer people that are just going to comply, and I understand that. You do you, Freeman, don't ask permission. But we're in a place right now where the government doesn't seem to be on our side. That doesn't matter if you comply or not. They're looking to keep their thumb on you. What's interesting is during this stuff, we're always embattled and, fighting for our rights, anyone in the 2A community. And we're now seeing the culture war guys, the guys that are just now waking up to the realities that we've known for years, that they will come for you no matter what. There is no amount of ground you can give that will satisfy these people. When I say these people, leftists who are trying to get power, and I would say even some of the guys that are supposedly on our side that turncoat. With that, you're seeing a ban being called for Target right now. And if since I'm bringing the culture stuff into the gun community and talking about guns and politics, this is a political issue to talk about too. Target has staked theirself into place like Bud Light did. They have a trans Satanist, I'm not even making this up because holy crap, how could you make this up, designer, who has designed tucking bathing suits and stuff for the Pride events that are going to happen in June. Now, they set up this entire display in stores to, show off their wares and show off how inclusive and, great they are because this is Target. And immediately they hit backlash. I've said this before, and if you've been watching gun tubers or anyone in the libertarian or ANCAP type space or even the conservative space, we know that the left doesn't fund the right funds the left, meaning that we're addicted to brands, we're addicted to products that people make or companies make, and they've always had the upper hand because we've not had anything that we would be willing to get rid of until Bud Light. Well, Target must have seen that meme and said, hold my beer, and did something really stupid, because the backlash is instant. And in today's day and age, there is a possibility that this gains some legs. I'm seeing people across the social media spaces, friends that I've known for years, finally wake up and go, oh, holy crap, I'm not shopping at Target. Welcome to the fight, guys. If your first time, that the meme where it shows the guys hanging on the gallows, and one of them's the 2A guy, and the other dude comes up and says, hey, you can't do that. First time? Yeah, we've been here. All of us in the 2A that have been fighting this battle to keep our rights and to tell people, hey, you went too far. We've been fighting this fight for a long time. It's great to finally see people wake up and understand that, there is no complying your way out of some things. You have to throw a stick in the ground, make this a hill you're willing to die on, and say, no, enough's enough. And for the first time in a long time, we're seeing it. I mean, the Bud Light boycott has grown legs that Bud Light's not going to recover from. They're 25% down from last week. And that's horrifying if you're a giant corporation. Now, they've whitewashed that, Bud Light has, saying that it's 1% of the global demand. Somehow I don't see people in Europe or anywhere else in the world really buying Bud Light, because it was kind of an American thing. Maybe they bought it because they thought it was American, like Americans buy, the one that's at Outback. There's a beer at Outback that, Foster's, there we go. It's Australian for Coors Light. I would say it's Canadian for Coors Light because it's made by Molson in Canada. I am a little bit of a beer guy, not as great as one of my big fans here. He makes some of the best beer on planet Earth, to be honest. And it makes sense that people are finally saying no. If we stick to our guns and we put our dollars where they matter, don't support people that hate you, but support companies and institutions and brands that aren't political. Point of fact. If they get in that political space and they side with leftists with all this diversity, equity, and inclusion crap that's trying to be pushed upon everybody, it usually boils down to ESG scores. That's what Bud Light tried to do. That's what Target was trying to do, is keep their ESG scores high, and they're paying the financial price. This is where banks that have thought that the ESG stuff would be great to see how companies are going to come out for the future, this is where we make them pay. Even Gavin Newsom has come out, and he's been a very big advocate, typical, because he's from California or is a California person, chastising Target for what they're doing, because Target, in their hustle to try to hide what just happened or realizing their mistake, has pulled this from being in the front of the store in a very prominent place to the back of the store. And in some states, they've actually pulled the display entirely. Now, if you really want to check out the videos, go look around on any social media. You can find them on Twitter, you can find them on Rumble, you can find them on YouTube. There are people walking through these displays showing you what they're trying to push on kids. And that's where I think the line finally crossed, is that people are tired of seeing this stuff pushed on kids, because kids didn't ask for this. Kids are soft and pliable, and they need to have their innocence preserved. My question for all this stuff and why it relates to the 2A, in my opinion, is because if they keep pushing this and got to a point, which I'm hoping they never do, there's going to be someone that's going to go nuts and is going to fight them. You're messing with people's kids. Messing with people's kids will get you killed. That's just simple. That's human nature. We are protectors of our kids. And that's what a man, that's what a woman, we do. We protect our kids. And you would have to be blind not to see that there are people that are going after your kids. They're trying to turn that, and they have tried to turn that on us, saying that teaching young people how to shoot and how to defend themselves and give them the basics of gun safety was grooming just along the same lines as trying to get them to go to child drag shows. That's not what it is. My whole intent of teaching my kids when they were younger how to shoot was so that if they were at someone else's house, another friend's house, and they were exposed to a gun, that they would know not to mess with it, that they would try to get their friends away from it also. Because there are too many times that I've heard of in my past where people have went to parties, messed around with a gun, or went to a friend's house, messed around with a gun, and someone got killed. That's happened several times in Salmon County. So it's a very big thing, and it always has been in my family, to teach young so that you understand what the hell you're messing with, so that you're not actually worried about them when they go to their friend's house, because not everyone else is responsible as we are. Case in point, a lot of these guns being used in shootings are kind of just in the mix, and no one knows how they got them until it's too late. I damn well would know if one of mine's missing. And that's what we're talking about here, is that we're in this space right now where you better hold on to your butts, because they're coming for you. And they're going to come after us full steam. And they are with this firearms pistol brace rule. So we need to circle our wagons together and, like I said, either outright peacefully not comply. I think that's my personal opinion, is what the United States citizens have decided, and that makes the federal government go, crap, what do we do now? If they're not willing, in my opinion, it looks like, seeing what we've seen with the FBI and everything else that have been militarized against us, that the two-tier justice system only serves the rich and the elite. Otherwise, Hunter Biden would be in jail for a long time now, and Biden would be out of office. This isn't me being politically motivated here. You cannot look at the stuff that has come out in legitimate circles and compare it to anyone else. Had they done these, they would have been in jail. It's the fact that there is an establishment in D.C. that we need to excise. And I'm not talking about people we vote in and out. We need to vote, get rid of the establishment that's there. The deep state is real, but it's those people that have been put into office by fiat, by executive fiat, or by just being there forever, that have had the jobs in the FBI, in the ATF, and any of those core institutions that have just been there forever. It's time for them to go. There needs to be a sea change. There needs to be another commission that checks and full on reins in the power of the federal government in the FBI and the ATF. And that's because they're not on our side. Yesterday it made the circles where this guy had ran into a bollard at in front of the White House. And immediately they found a Nazi flag and they crisply put it out on display. Now, I've seen police run up on incidents where they're starting their investigation. I don't and have never seen one where they were instantly trampling on the crime scene, trying to pull out every bit of evidence and lay it out for all the cameras to see. It seems too staged. And everyone has finally woken up and said, hey, this looks like a psyop. Then you find out that the man is an Indian national, I think he is, or he's an Indian citizen, meaning he's from India or his family's from India, and they're calling him a white nationalist and saying that he praised Hitler right after the investigation, like they arrested him. Now, I don't know how that is the case. You're seeing it continually and even more being posted lately in news circles where Hispanics and anyone of color can actually be nationalist Nazis. That is That is a bridge too far, I think, for the normal person to look at and go, how? How can they be self-hating enough to draw down on the Nazi ideology? And I think it's finally time that the left understands just how much of a slur that is. You know, all those other no-no words we're not supposed to use against them, this is a huge no-no word for people like me who had family who went to fight the Nazis, fight the actual Nazis in World War II. It is the biggest slur next to being a communist, you know. The communist stuff that the left is trying to push, that and socialism, when we hear those words, we think of actual Nazis and actual communists. I do. That is reprehensible. That's going to draw my ire and draw my fight or flight reflex every time. Every time you mention that a Marxist or a Stalinist idea, it's going to cue my nerves and make me look at you even more and see how much more bullshit you are. Because this stuff is not normal. In the United States, it is never normal. And it's been normalized now after years of neglect from one side who said, well, we'll just deal with it. They'll leave us alone. We'll just keep going. No, they won't. And those of us in the 2A community who've had to fight these battles so that we could get rid of stupid laws like red flag laws or these waiting periods for firearms, and kept saying every time you guys in the NRA concede any ground, you're giving them a mile, not an inch, because they're going to use it to get more. And they've done it consistently year after year after year. You know, it started with the NFA, the National Firearms Act. Now you can't have machine guns. There was a place in time in the United States you could order one from Sears catalog and it would be dropped off on your door. There was no background check. Then we all thought having a background check shouldn't be a problem. I've done nothing wrong. We'll be able to stolen our firearms. Well, what happens when those people that control those checks get power and start marking you as a bad person, as a prohibited person? This is what all of us that have been freedom-loving have been saying for years, that it's not just this person or the next person. We're talking years down the road. We're looking down the train tracks and going, that train's coming if you allow that track to keep going and not allow it to switch it off and make it turn. And that train is coming for you. And we're seeing it now. You know, you're seeing people. It's weird that if you ever watch Mr. Guns and Gear, he's hilarious, but he's also great at educating you. You know, he keeps us informed. I use him as one of my sources all the time, and I would definitely love to meet the guy. But he mentioned the stuff about the Firearms Policy Coalition, I think that's what he was on. And immediately as he pressed record, there was a black helicopter that just showed up in the background to see what the hell he was doing. Now, I know he lives in South Carolina, and there's a lot of military bases there, but that's a lot of coincidence because it happens more than not with him. That means he's being watched, in my opinion. You know, this isn't conspiracy-minded stuff anymore. Conspiracies, you'd have to be a fool to look at today's society and go, well, conspiracy theorists were all wrong. That's not the case. You know, I'm not a conspiracy-minded person. I usually look for verification. But time and time again, the conspiracy-minded guys are actually right. And we need to look really hard at our society and start putting our feet in the ground and say, no, we're done. And I know a lot of people are. You know, one of my good friends for years, you know, he's always been a guy I could count on. I call him brother. You know, I'm his dad is a business partner of mine right now. And he has changed a lot in his stance on how much he respects law enforcement versus actually complies with law enforcement. Now, the respect is due. You know, the events of last Monday, you can't look at and say, damn, those cops did a great job at stopping a bad person that was doing a lot of bad things. Yeah, it took time for them to get there. Yeah, they took hits. and I'm thankful they were there. But where were the other civilians? And what I mean by that is, I say it often enough, stay strapped or get clapped. You know, it's tragic that these 3 elderly females were killed. But what would have happened if they had been able to fight and defend themselves? These are the people that actually need that 2A more than anyone else, because they are the weaker of our generations. You know, these are the ones that criminals prey upon, and they should absolutely be able to defend themselves. I think they were ambushed, and that's basically how they got killed. But at the same time, I'm praising law enforcement for what they did on Monday. I'm still remembering the fact that they showed up to the wrong house, a block and a half away from me, and killed a homeowner who showed up to the door with a gun at 11:30 at night on a Wednesday. Yes, he should have looked outside, absolutely, to see what the hell was going on. He should have been aware of his surroundings. However, I believe, seeing the video, the cops shot. They didn't give any instruction. They didn't give any chance for this man to respond. Instantly, they shot and killed this man. And they would have killed his wife had his wife not known, eventually figured out that it was law enforcement outside. That's a huge tragedy. That's a huge misstep in training. So with the funds we're giving law enforcement, it looks like, just from a third-party observer right now, that they're getting lots of tactical training to go in and do stuff, to roll in heavy. Case in point, they were able to take out the shooter on Monday. But that's not the tool to be used against a normal civilian at their home. Unless they've done something criminally wrong and you're 100% sure of it. I'm still pissed off about that whole incident where they killed the wrong guy, Mr. Dotson. Why didn't they verify his address? You know, before they rolled up, they knew this was the wrong address when they knocked on the door. Why didn't they verify or try another means to get a hold of the person inside, just to make sure what's going on? Remember, if you're inside and you hear lots of noise outside, I know this because it happened last night. My dog barked. I don't know who was outside. I think it was my neighbors. I have some neighbors that are kind of rowdy sometimes. And he was barking because I think someone walked through my yard. Well, for me, I have cameras outside. I instantly looked outside. But I also responded by clearing my house, making sure everything was cool, you know, because that's what I would do with a firearm. Okay? Where is the responsibility that we have nowadays? You know, we are responsible for ourselves. And that's where we're at. I think it's amazing that FPC is winning battles. I hope they win continually. I hope GOA, Gun Owners of America, continue to win too. We'll see what the result is, and I'll report on it as soon as I can. Like, share, subscribe. Be great.
My politics are rather controversial. Who would have thought that? I ain't catching all slack, and I have enemies on my ball sack. I'm thinking insanity's what you call it, and I just get a